Hello, Julia. You've done a very fine job. I'm having a hard time finding a suggestion for you. One thing that I'll note is that in your monochromatic example, it's very nice how there's a strong change in value. Really seems almost illuminated. Another effect that's working well for you is in triad. The central area of shapes are colored with saturated colors while we see tints and shades, maybe tones in the outer areas. When I look at complementary, I like the popping effect with green on the violet. They're complementary colors. However, because the value of the green is very similar to the backdrop color, I'm not sure you're getting all of the pizzazz you could get out of that. Well, hi Jamie. Yesterday on the radio, I noticed they were talking about Denver as the Mile High City, and it's fun to see the cityscape here against the mountainscape. Um, let's see. I am so keen on you using a little bit of linear perspective, and if you haven't had a perspective class yet, I'm sure you could find an easy tutorial for 1 point perspective that could help you put the road in perspective. I noticed that you have made the near center line a little thicker than the one that's a little closer to your woman on the sidewalk. And that is a use of perspective, but the sidewalk itself, do you notice how it looks a little bit like a wall? If you were able to slant those separations between the blocks of the sidewalk so that they're at a diagonal that's nearly horizontal, I think it's going to improve the effect. And there are other things you could do too. As I was mentioning, I'd like to know that you had drawn the silhouette of the young woman who represents you versus you finding that. Now, with regard to the color harmonies, well, you haven't labeled these and we don't have a color wheel. In order for me to grade this later on, those things will have to be included. We need to know what it is you're shooting for. So, Rachel, I know this is your 6th version. You have been working very hard. Here the pointers wind up being kind of small, the color wheels too. If you were to do another version, it would be great to see those larger. On the other hand, I'm glad that your titles are quite large and legible so we know which harmony is which. All of the color harmonies turn out to be okay when I take the color picker to them, except split complementary. You'll notice that you need orange and yellow, but no yellow orange. And what I'm seeing is yellow orange in place of yellow. So that's something that could be corrected. And another matter is that the resolution is deteriorating, particularly in the complementary example. And this is making me think that you might be making adjustments to JPEGs. Always, always go back to the native file, the full resolution one, to make your adjustments. And then you won't get this degradation of the image. So go back to your AI if you're in Illustrator or your PSD if you're in Photoshop. And there are some instructions about all that in an announcement from early on. So this is lovely that you've used your own digital color wheel here in this assignment for the color wheel with pointers. Bravo. I can't read your color harmony titles, but looking at the color wheels, I know what it is you're after. If you revise this, it'd be nice to see the titles larger. So in the first one, top left, which appears to be monochromatic based on your pointer pointing to yellow only, you actually have not a monochromatic harmony, but an analogous one. Notice that there is orange and yellow use here. Now, let's take a look at the second one. Here you seem to be aiming for a complementary color harmony, and it's right that blue and yellow are complements on the digital wheel. However, you ought not include orange. Strictly speaking, your colors need to be yellow and blue only, and you can't have tones, tints, or shades of either of those colors. But whatever colors you do use need to come from only those two color picker fields. Now, I'm looking at split complementary next. And I think I saw a similar problem. For example, take a look at that slice of cyan toward the top. That is a color that you're not pointing to. So limit your array of colors only to those you point to. Or we could say limit the hues to the ones you point to, and you can pick any colors from the color picker fields for those hues. Now, let's see, taking a look at your triad one, that's the last one. So you've got red, green, and blue, yet the sun, or the moon I guess it is cyan. Okay, so this needs a little reworking in order to be correct. Hello Sharon, I understand you're traveling today. The colors turn out to be quite good in all these. The one problem I see is with your split complementary. You should have blue and then a blue cyan, but not any straight cyan. And I do see a couple of triangles that seem to be straight cyan. They are in the bottom right corner, for example. I do want to talk to you about this design. I noticed that there's a rather regular design in the background. It reminds me a little bit of this example from the gallery of student work. And then superimposed is less regular angular design. And I feel as though the two of them don't seem to belong together. How could you mesh them more, integrate them better? I'm wondering if these less regular shapes could be sewn in and out of the zigzags, if they might sometimes tuck into a zigzag, almost like it was a pocket. Here below in center is work by artist Charles Birchfield, who portrayed the landscape but did so with jagged shapes. He really stylized what he saw. Your work reminded me of what he does. Well, hi, Catherine. I noticed you've chosen a different example, which is fine. I'm taking a look at your color harmonies here. I see you have not yet added the color wheel with the pointers, and I want you to do that. I'm going to go on what I know here, but your classmates will have a harder time without that color wheel. So, with split complements, all right, you could have a couple of blues that are one step apart on the color wheel, and then you could have either yellow or orange, but altogether you really seem to have at least 4 colors here because of the gradient that you're using for the background. So limit it to 3 only. So you could say 3 hues and any tint, tone, or shade from within each of those hues respective color picker fields. All right, now with analogous, well, it seems like you're moving from red to magenta to violet to blue cyan. And I would recommend that you limit the array of colors you use when the neighboring colors stretch too far around the color wheel. When there are just too many colors or hues used, we lose the sense of the analogous harmony. Your monochromatic harmony is right on. Now, with complements, I am seeing blue as well as cyan. So please limit yourself to, I think it will be, if you use red, orange, then you want a blue cyan color. Taking a look at this design, it's making me think of air shows or possibly stained glass. I like the way that that stained glass example at top works. You have a hexagon made of triangle shapes.